to put stimulus payments in the pockets of about 85% of Americans, according to the United States Treasury Department. The government wasted no time in getting money to people, with some already seeing the payments in their bank accounts this weekend. But some people are still waiting.
And offers a tax break.
People won't have to pay taxes on the first just over $10,000 of their unemployment insurance benefits.
And the bill's $1,400 stimulus checks will be the largest yet for most Americans.
Everybody, CNBC News reported that consumers who have been squeezed by higher prices may be experiencing a little more relief. According to a recent report, fewer adults say that they are receiving and living on paycheck to paycheck. As of July, 60% of Americans are living to paycheck, and even 61% are doing this higher than a year ago. Low-income people have also been hit the hardest by this time, and particularly before food and even other staples, since those expenses were a bigger share of their budget. Even though top earners have also been struggling to make ends meet, wealthier Americans feel less financially strained. The report found that those earning on $200,000 or more reported living 30% paycheck to paycheck. Now, recent signs that inflation has passed its peak and may be cooling off is a welcome sign for the cash-strapped Americans, but the Fed is raising its interest rates again to further slow inflation. So it's still near its highest level since the 80s. The U.S. Central Bank has indicated more increases are coming until there are clear signs of a pullback, but for much of this year, the Fed has sought to tamp down the decades-high inflation by tightening the monetary policy. Simple as that, including issuing any unprecedented 4 consecutive rate hikes of 75 basis points or 3/4 of a percentage point. Last week, the CPI index showed again that inflation slowed to 7.7%. That's 8.2% year over year. And if you haven't filed a 2021 federal tax return, there may be a chance you could get the missing out on the generous tax credit. You can use the IRS free file program that is open through Thursday, November 17th. Beyond that date, though, they will still be able to claim this by filing a federal tax return. The American Rescue Plan Act, passed by Congress in 2021, temporarily made enhanced tax credits available to millions of people. That included a recovery credit that provided third stimulus checks of $1,400 a person. It also made existing tax credits, the child tax and earned income tax, more generous. The child tax credit included up to $3,600 for children under 6 and $3,000 per child aged 6 to 17. Up to half of those amounts were paid in advance through the monthly child tax credit payments. However, to claim the remaining sums, you need to file a federal 2021 tax return. And the earned income tax credit, everybody, which applies to middle and low-income workers, is also enhanced for the tax year. Workers with no children may qualify for up to $1,500, with increases to as much as $6,700 for filers with 3 more children. And because eligibility was expanded for workers without children and younger and older age thresholds, more workers qualify for the credit in 2021 this year. 2021, in October, the IRS sent letters to more than 9 million families who didn't file tax returns to alert them they may qualify for these credits. These letters were similar to those that were sent in September and also alerted 9 million other people. So many of these non-filers are not required to file taxes, but this is bad because it means that you won't receive stimulus payments. So if you want to receive a stimulus check sooner than expected, then do it right now and claim your stimulus.
Coming in late. Trucks that were not taking away empties, chassis were everywhere. All right, this year it's the opposite. Things have gone from choke to fluid, almost too fluid, in part because a lot of cargo now goes to the East Coast, and in part because some retailers have stopped ordering containers from China in order to work through their current inventory.
If you remember, November 2021, the port had 160 vessels lining up, waiting to be unloaded. I think a few days ago it was less than 5.
Now, big picture, it's mixed. Amazon is closing or canceling some warehouses, but Target has gone from 1 sorting site in Minneapolis to 5 this year, with more to follow in 2023. Now, Prologis is the largest warehouse REIT. It only has 2% of space available. Many tenants have signed long leases to secure that space, regardless of what happens next year. However, Prologis is pausing new construction on projects built on spec without signed tenants.
Given the inefficiency in the capital markets right now, we're waiting to see some more clarity before we make decisions to move forward at the same pace we've been moving forward. 2022 is still a record year for Prologis.
And they're still moving forward.
A big update on President Biden's fourth stimulus package, everybody. Joe Manchin has announced his new agreement with Chuck Schumer, and progressive lawmakers have proposed mailing inflation to relief checks. Now, these checks may be sent out to low-income households, Social Security beneficiaries, and even families. You want to be sure to stay until the end of the video to know if you can receive the latest stimulus check from President Biden. Congress is planning on taking big action this week, as they are now in session, and Joe Manchin of West Virginia is already holding meetings with other lawmakers to finally close a deal. According to NBC News, alongside Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Joe Manchin held a meeting on climate initiatives. This was an effort to see whether a bipartisan deal can be cut with Republicans. Manchin has told reporters, "If I can find something bipartisan, we don't need reconciliation." Democrats have been using for over a year, allowing them to bypass the 60-vote threshold to end a potential filibuster. He later added that one area of shared interest could be overhauling the federal oil and gas leasing program. "It's urgent to find out if there's a pathway," he said. "If there's any way, then we can find a pathway in a bipartisan way." Now, a spokesperson for Manchin said the meeting was an effort to gauge bipartisan interest in a path forward that addresses our nation's climate and energy security heads-on. The progressive lawmakers are also trying to come up with an agreement with Manchin. House Representative Ro Khanna said in a statement that passing a bold bill is his highest priority, and he was pleased to participate with colleagues on finding a way forward. Joe Manchin has voiced support in recent months for a package centered on clean energy spending, cutting prescription prices, and rolling back the 2017 Republican tax cuts. Democrats hope to cut a deal with Manchin on the bill as soon as possible. Some of the Democratic Party are pushing to strike an agreement on their priorities by Memorial Day. Inflation has been rising at a clip not seen in 4 decades, pushing up prices on just about everything and eating into household finances. To help residents grappling with the increased cost as a result of crisis-driven inflation, the Maine legislature passed a budget that included relief checks for Mainers. An estimated 850,000 residents will be eligible for the extra cash to help cover the increased cost of things, ranging from higher energy costs to increased prices for everyday goods. Governor Janet Mills' proposal was passed overwhelmingly by the state legislature, which will return half of the budget surplus to the taxpayers for a total of $729.3 million. Unlike last year's relief program, which was a thank you to Mainers who worked during the early days of the crisis, there is no wage requirement this time around. The state expects to send out checks to approximately 333,000 more residents through this program. Only full-time Maine residents that file a 2021 Maine individual income tax return and meet the income thresholds will receive the $850 inflation relief checks. Although the tax filing deadline has passed, Mainers can still submit a tax return to access the boost to their finances. However, they only have until October 31st, 2022. Also, those eligible must not be claimed as dependent on another filer's tax return. According to the state, Mainers can expect to start receiving the first round of checks arrive in their mailboxes this summer. Maine Revenue Services will send out subsequent rounds on a rolling basis.